I'm Saul Goodman, your friendly neighborhood lawyer, so to speak, and you're listening to the Bob Culture Podcast with your host, Rob Cruther, an honest and upstanding individual, always accompanied by the best pop culture experts and connoisseurs that friendship can buy. Guaranteed. Oh, if you ever need a lawyer, better call Saul!
Hey, yo, welcome to a special edition of the Bob Culture Podcast. We are Breaking Bad today, and of course, I am joined by special guests. Of course, we have usually the Human Wrestling Encyclopedia. Today, we have the film buff.
I'm branching out, man.
He's branching. He's all over the place. The very talented Michael Vacchiano. Mike, what's up, bro? How are you?
How you doing, man? Good to see you. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, of course, man. Always a pleasure. And making his debut on the Bob Culture Podcast, you've heard of the Bassmaster. Well, he is the Bassmaster.
Nice.
The Swagmatic, the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend, Max Orozco. How are you, man?
Yo, what's going on?
I'm sitting here like, did I pronounce your last name right? I've known you for so long.
It's good. It's good.
It was close enough.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks for the intro, man. It was intense.
No, man, I'm finally glad to have you here. We're here to talk Breaking Bad. Obviously, you know, we got our Schrader brews here. We're ready to go.
Schrader brow.
That's right. Yeah, we got some fried chicken. Not really. But we're ready to talk some Breaking Bad. And you guys, for years and years and years, be like, Rob, you got to watch this show. I don't know why you guys thought I would like this show in particular, but it's just a good show.
It's just great television. I've been pushed ever since the show has been on, and while it was on, and ever since it ended, I've been telling people, take the time to get into it.
Fantastic writing, fantastic characters. You know, Max has been telling me at band practice, Mike, pretty much every time I saw you, Rob, you got to watch the show. And you know what? I said I would. I did it, and I was in. I loved the pilot. A lot of people have said the same thing. It's really slow at the beginning, but I was in for every episode. Like I enjoyed the ride, and yeah. So I thought the best way to tackle this was to kind of do a character analysis, so we can talk about each character's kind of story arc. You know, where they started, the middle, the end, all that. And Mike had a very good point. He would always tell me, I'll let you explain. Like, what do you always say about the characters? One episode, you can.
Well, again with the writing and the acting. It's like, you know, we love characters one episode, we hate them the next. You know, my parents, I got them into it. They have their favorites, and it's just like you root for them one, then you're kind of like, oh, I hope they kind of want to see them fail, but then you kind of it's back and forth. And just because it's like, you know, the whole human aspect, there's no clear-cut heroes and villains. I mean, for most of the characters, no clear-cut hero and villains. But that's all I can say. But just...
Yeah, I think what you had said to me was like one episode you hate a character, and then the next episode, yeah.
Totally. I mean, you want to see Jesse, you know, like people like Jesse, you want to see him do good, but it's like, oh, dude, get off the drugs, everything like that. You want to see him kind of fix his life around. But then again... You also want to see him stay in the business and make some money, but, you know, it's... I don't know.
Yeah, well, let's get to it. You know, I do want to talk about the cinematography and the music, the openings, the end credits. You can tell it was just like a lot of thought put into every scene. Really, really well done, which I appreciated. But you know what? Let's get right into the characters. Obviously, we got to start with Walter White.
Main
character.
Go ahead, Max.
Of course. Well... I mean,
where
do we
start there?
Yeah.
I mean, he's the main character, so, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, the biggest thing to look at on this show would be, like, you know, he starts off as a high school chemistry teacher with one kid and then one other one on the way. And by the middle of the series, he's just done some unforgivable things. And by the end of the series, it's just like the shell of a man.
Yeah.
Or shell of what the man he was, you know what I mean?
And it's so interesting, like, and let me just say this right now, I'm in no way condoning, like, making meth or selling meth or anything, but man, it's like this whole series, like, who are you rooting for? Are we, like, rooting for him to, like, do really well? Mm-hmm. I mean, his intentions were good, but ultimately we find out he kind of liked, you know, Breaking Bad. He, you know, I think one of the last episodes he said, you know, I liked it.
When he admitted to his wife at the very end, he was like, he's like, I did this in the end. I did this for me.
Yeah, pretty much. And a lot of times in this show with a lot of characters, there are so many points where they could have gotten out of this business or they were set or, you know, they weren't going to make any more mistakes. And a lot of time, especially with Walter, his pride got in the way. You know, like his friends were going to give him money for the cancer treatment or give him a job, rather.
Yeah.
His pride got in the way. And, yeah, man, just such an interesting character. Mike, go ahead. I know you have a lot to say.
Oh yeah, but I'm not gonna hijack this, but I'm just you know, I was gonna say like, in the beginning you root for him. This poor guy, he's like, you know, working 2 jobs. He's taking so much abuse. His students boss him around at the car wash and you know and everything like that. So, but then of course you want to see him do well, and it's like, okay, if you're got this much to live, yeah, okay, go ahead, put your chemistry knowledge to use, go make some money. But by the end of it, he just gets so into it, and it's sort of like, who is Walter White? Is he really Heisenberg all along, and is Walter White kind of like the cover? Who is he? You know, is he really like finally got a chance to let this loose? Was he doing it just to make some cash, or was he finally letting his evil side out?
It's weird because I thought, you know, just from kind of knowing like what the show was about, and you know, obviously, like I knew what had happened, or I thought I knew what would happen to the last episode, just because I remember when it debuted like, years and years ago, and everyone was talking about the ending, so I kind of had an idea how it was going to end. It wasn't the way I thought it was going to end, but obviously we'll talk about that.
True.
But he, like in my mind, he was going to like kind of like don the hat, as Max is wearing the hat right now.
I had to.
Yeah, and like the shades, and kind of have like that on-off switch, Dr. Jekyll,
Right,
Mr.
right,
Hyde,
right.
Totally,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
I think
and
it was that for a while
yeah.
too. Yeah.
Totally. But like there was always like a middle ground too with him. You know, he had some really smart decisions, and like when he turned it on, like he was so well spoken, his voice got a little deeper, he was a little bit more menacing. When it comes back to a lot of those, say my name and who am I, and
I'm the one who knocks.
I'm the one who knocks.
Yeah.
Totally great line. You see, I mean, that line sold how many T-shirts right off there?
Oh,
and everything
easily,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, and here we are thinking, I'm like, isn't this the dad from Malcolm in the Middle? And he crushed
Totally
it.
was.
Zordon. Yeah.
The best, Walter White, you're right. You hate him and you love him. But at the same time, when he was in full-on, like, genius mode, when he was, you know, manipulating somebody in some absurd way, you couldn't help but, you know, appreciate it, I guess. Like, he did some deplorable things, but the way he went about them was really intelligent. You know, it was really cool.
He had a sense, like, when he got into this business, he kind of had a little bit of a sense, like, when he saw these, you know, low-level thugs starting to, like, get, like, meth, you know, like, ingredients at the store, he just stares them down the parking lot and says, get off my territory, or whatever like that. And also, when he figures out that Gus is his contact when he goes to the Los Pollos Hermanos, he's like, I think I was you supposed to meet. I wanted to meet you over the table in 5 minutes, and you deduced it right away.
Very smart.
Knew how to, like, you know, one up on Tuco when he had to, like, when he was just starting out.
Very good at reading the situations and the environment.
Because there's also that whole philosophy where it's like, I got nothing to lose. I'm going to be dying anyway, so I may as well just go in full throttle.
True.
And blowing up that jerk's car.
I was just gonna bring that up, but that was early. Was that even the first episode or
that was
second
like
episode?
early season? Yeah.
Where
The real, like, the D-bag guy.
was it the pilot when those guys were making fun of his son in the store? Was that the pilot episode?
I think it was.
And then he comes around, you know, and he just like steps on the guy's ankle or whatever.
Even if it was the pilot or like the first season, but then also like
you kind of see that.
we'll get to
switching.
Walt Jr., but even like when he finally shaves his head, and his son is like, "Oh, Dad, you look badass," and you know.
Yeah, and oh man, I want to talk about his son. Obviously, we'll get there in a little bit. But what an interesting character. Like, it's almost like, you know, when you're wronged in life and you kind of just want to like go punch somebody in the face or just kind of like, you know, it was kind of him letting his like you know how you have the angel and the devil on your shoulder.
True.
Like he's like let his devil out, and you're almost rooting for him, you know.
Well, his intentions for most of the show, I would say, are you know, it's for his family, you know.
Yeah.
And that's really easy to relate to. Absolutely.
Yeah, dude, I'm so glad
know
you
what I
said
mean?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, think about it, you know, I mean, you know, his, I guess I'll say heart was in the right place,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And he wanted to, you know, make money because he knew he'd be gone, and he needed to, you know, obviously pay the medical bills. And, you know, he put 2 and 2 together with, you know, after the raid with Hank and all that stuff.
Well,
so.
when you put like you deduce it, he's like, okay, he's like, I gotta send 2 kids to college. I gotta have enough money for food and for the bills and the mortgage. That's about $700,000, and he's like, which obviously we think is a crazy amount of money. But he's like, all right, just 10 or 11 more deals and I'm done. That's it, and I'm out.
Yeah, he
Enough to
did.
pay the
He
bills.
did want to be
Done.
like done. He had a mark. He wanted to reach, and he wanted to retire.
Yeah.
But obviously, we know how it ended up. And then, of course, when you realize how much money he could bring in like a week, it's kind of like, you know what? This is one of my theories about the fact that, you know how the whole gray matter company and how he wasn't a part of it anymore?
Right.
It's kind of presumed that, you know, his old girlfriend dumped him for
Oh, Elliot.
Yeah, Gretchen. It's presumed that Gretchen dumped him and end up for Elliot. The two of them formed, and they kind of ousted him from Gray Matter. It's never 100% confirmed, but
I'm glad you brought that up because I felt like that's something they were really going to dive into like through the series, and they touched on it in the first season, so you're kind of putting the pieces together, and then they don't touch it for like 3 more seasons, and then kind of towards the end,
It was the season finale. I think.
yeah, and I think he had explained it to his son or something at one point. Or maybe he doled it down a little
Jesse,
bit. To Jesse, that's who it was.
When he's like, do you know Gray Matter? And he's like, they're worth like $2 billion something dollars. And he's like, I check it every week. And he's like, and I sold my shares for a little bit of money at the time. So that's why he's like, I'm in the Empire business.
Yeah.
When he's like,
that was a good line.
He's like, okay, they're running a company. Well, I'm running a company now.
Yeah, and there's another reason he didn't stop. Like to Max's point, it's crazy, man. Well, ultimately, because we got to move along here.
Definitely.
We knew what was going to happen with Walter. Let me just tell you where I was thinking. Now, obviously, you guys saw this years before me. I thought in the pilot episode, it I think it has like a little time travel there where he has the gun at his head at the beginning of the episode, and then it tells the whole story, and then it shows him with the gun at his head. Is that the pilot episode?
I think so. When he's racing through the desert in his underwear.
Yeah, and the cops are coming for him, and he's like, "We're in trouble." So I really liked the pilot. Like I was in right away. But I'm thinking, all right, like I knew that he was going to die at the end, and I knew that he had killed himself, or so I thought. So my thought was it was going to kind of go all the way back to the pilot, or kind of just mimic that scene and would play out that same way where he's just everything went to you know what, and he just ended it,
True.
And that's how I thought it was going to end. Obviously, really cleverly rigs the rifle in the assault weapon,
machine gun in the trunk.
trunk. And,
that was his Scarface
the
moment.
keys. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, totally. And then he ended up taking himself out, kind of a self-sacrificing thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And I think the very end of the series just shows kind of the overhead shot again. Fantastic cinematography with all the SWAT team or the DEA.
With Badfinger playing in the
Yeah,
totally.
the music's always. I don't even know all the music, but the music's definitely on
Negro
point.
al Azul.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. But yeah, so that's pretty much Walter's story. Obviously, we'll talk about Walter a lot more, but I think we pretty much nailed it. Let's talk about a lot of people's favorite character. Was not my favorite character. Jesse Pinkman. Did you guys like Jesse?
Absolutely. As a character.
Yeah, I know you like Jesse's friends, but go ahead, man. We'll get there. Yeah.
Jesse was cool, at the beginning of the series too. He's like this polar opposite to Walt. So it was an interesting duo for sure. Not one that you see a lot. Yeah, exactly. Not one that you're expecting to see. So that in itself is entertaining to watch. But yeah, Jesse really goes through a roller coaster of a character arc, I guess.
Yeah.
Lots of ups, lots of really, really low downs.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm trying to think, like, because obviously you think it's going to play out in a way like where Walter becomes a father figure to him, and we'll talk about their relationship soon. But I'm thinking, like, who does Jesse really have? Obviously, he had his ups and downs, like you said, especially with Walt. But I'm thinking, like, he's been in a couple relationships we saw on the show with Jessica Jones.
Jane.
Yeah.
Jessica
That was an interesting scene with her and Walter.
Kristen Ritter, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Obviously, that didn't work out well, and then the thing with who was the other?
Andrea.
Yeah, Andrea. Yeah, and stuff involving her kids, and then his family, pretty much.
Black
have
sheep.
any.
He's the
Yeah.
black.
True.
It's kind of upsetting because even after he gets out of rehab and he goes to see his dad, and he's like, "Oh, I'm clean. I got my chip. Here's my 90 days sober." And he's like, "Can I go take a look at the house?" And even his dad's like, "Oh no, we'll give you a call." With no, like they're never gonna. And you see, kind of also he's like smart when they showed him in the first season about he was a really smart kid who kind of like wasted his potential a little bit, and basically he's never living up to his parents' standards
Or his brothers.
Yeah,
But
true.
it's also like you said, Rob, that he doesn't have anybody because all those people who hung out at his house, he pretty much said, "Here's some money. You guys hang out till I get back." He just tossed money. He's like, here, get them some pizza, get them some more drugs, let him hang out here till I get back because he just didn't want to be alone. And
Yeah, obviously, also because that was right after he had killed somebody or people
after he had shot
him.
Gail, which of course
There's so much going on, it's hard to keep track.
it is so much going on. But I mean, the great thing about this show, it's like he starts off wanting to be like want to be ball or want to be the head drug guy in Albuquerque, but as he gets more into it with Walt, he's really not cut out for it.
And it's funny, it's because he ends up becoming the head honcho. He basically is at the top of that meth making. Game.
They become opposites because Jesse's not really cut out for that kind of business. You saw how traumatized he was after killing somebody. I mean, and it wasn't even for self-defense. He killed Gale point blank just to protect Walter.
That was such a crazy scene.
What a great ending. I think the episode, he pulled the trigger and the episode went out, so you didn't really know where he, I'm sitting there going, I think he did it, And what a great play by Walter kind of save his own, like.
Yeah.
He said, you got to take out Gale because otherwise they're going to kill me. And just like Walter, again, thinking on his feet.
Yeah,
crazy.
Clutch.
Like it's funny. You see Jesse get those hints of happiness, like when he's hanging out with Andrea and Brock, and just hanging out playing video games and taking them out for food and everything like that. You see him like doesn't really need any of this, but he doesn't need the drugs and that kind of lifestyle and to become like a big time dealer. But like you said, he's just not cut. He was not cut out for that kind of.
And there's so many, man, I could talk about Jesse all day. Like, Kate, I was talking to Kate's dad. I'm like, yeah, I'm watching it, and I'm in season 2, season 3 right now. He goes, I love Jesse. I'm thinking, I can't stand Jesse. He screws everything up. Like, everything's good. Well, I'm going to go, deal on the side with my own business. Or, like, he's always... and maybe that has something to do with him not having anyone.
The therapy group. He's trying to secretly push meth on them.
Exactly.
And then when
so awesome.
Like how, it's like, it's so messed up. Like how he's
your
like,
guys, Badger and Pete, going there trying to be like, I need some of that blue crank they got going out, man.
So good.
I almost want to say Walter's just as bad, but really Jesse just. If they're not in any sort of trouble, Jesse will find a way to get them in trouble or mess it up or kill the car battery or So that's why he drove me nuts. Ultimately, you kind of start to feel for him after all he's been through, and he has, like we said already, he has nobody. Like you want Walter to come through for him,
Well, I think Walter did become like a father figure to him, and I feel like Walter felt like he had, like today when he goes through the crack house and rescues him and brings him to rehab and everything like that. I feel like he has to look out for him.
True.
But then as it came on and Walt got more evil, he's like, this is kind of like my puppet now.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. When you said Walt did become a father figure to him, I thought that's where the show was going to go ultimately.
True.
But it's also what you said too, Mike. Like he didn't really, like he did step up a few times, but then he used him as a puppet, and they, at the end of the show, they were not on good terms. I mean, at all. They wanted to kill each other. They almost did kill each other.
He used his girlfriend's son to help him get him on his side to take out Gus.
Yeah, that's when you there were a lot of times you stopped rooting for Walt.
Absolutely.
That was one of those times,
And when Jesse's like, look, when he's like, I want to get my $5 million and get out, when they were going to sell the methylamine and get out of the business, like, look, let's just take our $5 million. I'm set, you're set. Let's just get out of this. And Walt's trying to like bully him and be like, oh, but you don't want to be the best at something, really? But he's like, oh, you don't want to do this? Like, fine. Tell you what, you're not getting your $5 million now. And Jesse's like, you know what? F you. I'm walking out anyway.
Yeah. Crazy.
And even then, when he brings him his money, he's scared to death. He thinks that he put a bomb in here, and Jesse's all paranoid.
Yeah, but
I forgot about that.
Understandably so,
Totally.
Just the show's all over the place. We're trying to cover a lot of ground in this. Man, so much, and obviously we can keep talking about Walter and Jesse. Ultimately, at the end, Jesse is pretty much a prisoner for how long? Was it like 3 months? Or?
It was a couple months. Yeah.
Was it kind of not stated?
The whole time though, it was like, you could tell several months had passed because Walt was hiding out in his cabin.
Yeah,
and Jesse was like a slave.
Beards, yeah.
Jesse was a slave, like cooking meth for the white supremacist group, Uncle Jack.
Yeah,
and Creepy Todd.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
We'll get to them. But
man,
yeah, poor Jesse.
Yeah, and like I'm thinking about it. So obviously, because I talked to Mike after I watched the last episode, and I was like I didn't even realize Walt got shot. I knew he tackled Jesse to save Jesse.
True.
Like, he's like, I hate you, and came at him, and it was all like an act, and he got the car keys, which was actually very clever with the car key.
Yeah, it was awesome.
If you look at the scene, if you look at the part,
I've only seen it once.
If you look at that scene again when the gun's firing, you can see Walt lying on top of Jesse, and a bullet and a stray bullet like ricochets off and hits him.
True. So it hit him while he was down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought, because I had only just seen the scene unfold, and I'm thinking, I guess he got shot when he.
I think Walt kind of planned, obviously,
that makes so much more sense.
Walt kind of planned it to be like a suicide mission, like in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He planned to kill Jesse because he figured once he found out Jesse's here, he's like, oh, you've been doing this behind my back. Then he saw how beat up he was, like, okay, maybe you're not. Maybe you are being used by these guys, so maybe I can, try to save you.
I don't even know if Walt can ever kind of really redeem himself, but that was probably the closest thing he could do to it.
No, he can't. And that's the whole beauty of the show is the fact that all the things Walt did when he set out to do it, like, okay, you kind of root for him, then he did these evil things, but it's like, you can't unfix what you did, Walt. Yeah. Your family screwed up. Your
brother-in-law's dead.
Your brother-in-law's dead.
Oh,
your
man. What
son,
an episode.
who idolized you, thinks you're the most horrible person ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it was like
they
a
won't,
final.
Exactly. You're,
it's crazy, man.
It would be too perfect. That's not how way life is. You screw up like that, you're not getting out of it.
Yeah, you can't undo it. And he tried, man. He tried so many different ways to undo things.
Up until the very end, yeah.
The only thing he could do was guarantee that his family would be financially secure. But we'll get to that again.
Yeah, totally. But I was thinking about this, and I'll ask you guys this question if you guys have any theories. Because think about it. So, obviously, Hank takes out the whole, Uncle Jack? Mm-hmm. Uncle Jack and his crew pretty much takes them all out at their little fortress or base or whatever you want to call it, bunker or whatever it was. And Jesse, is free. He busts out of there. I'm thinking, and we see that's kind of Jesse's, that's a wrap on Jesse Pinkman,
True.
And he drives out, which I thought was a cool ending, very open-ended.
I liked it.
Obviously, what do you think? Like, is he going to, be caught by the DEA? Where does he go? Like, I mean, obviously we don't know. It's open-ended for a reason. Like, in your mind, like,
my first thought was because of what happened to Andrea, that he was going to go try and do something with Brock.
I kind of got that feeling, too.
Wow,
I don't see how that's feasible. I mean, he's got no money. He's wanted.
But he doesn't care that he doesn't have any money anymore.
True.
He wanted to give when he got his final payoff money from Walt, he wanted to give it away to, to Mike's granddaughter.
That's a good point.
And to the kid who got shot in the desert. He didn't care about the money anymore. He was free. I mean, and he was not in jail, and he was,
assumed dead.
Tears of joy
as
as he's racing out of there.
I got another question for you guys. I'm gonna give my input first. Actually, I'm gonna lead you guys here.
True,
because I'm the host. I was thinking about it. Like, when was Jesse like at his best? Like, obviously in the 5 seasons, and I'm thinking. I think when he was rolling, obviously we'll talk about Mike in a little bit. I think when he was rolling with Mike, like, obviously they were kind of, again, using Jesse and setting him up a little bit, but it kind of worked out. Like, when he was rolling with Mike and he felt like he was useful and he felt like he was important and he had a relationship with Mike, and Mike doesn't really give you anything. He was a great character. We'll talk about him, but I felt like that was perfect for Jesse. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I think the scene where after they went to Mexico and Gus got his revenge and scene. And then he asks Gus, he's like, "What are you gonna do about Mr. White?" And of course he still calls him Mr. White.
Yeah, I love it.
And he's like, "Look, I'm not working with that asshole anymore. You can edit that out later." He's like, "I'm not working with him anymore. And you can fire him or you can buy him out, but just don't kill him." Like, Jesse still had his own code. He's like, "Look, I don't want him dead. But I'm not going to do it anymore." And Gus is like, "Well, that's not your decision." He's like, "Well, he's like, I'm not condoning it. Just don't kill him." Yeah, I think that was his best kind of be like a level-headed saying. He could have said, like, "Walt, I want, take that guy out." But no, and also when he went to Mexico and he showed up all those chemists and they're like, "Yo," he's like, "You know what? I'm telling you what I need. I need this. I need that. I need everything turned up. Bitch."
Yeah. Oh man, that scene had one of my favorite Jesse Pinkman lines. He's like, when he calls him an asshole, and he's like, "Oh, I speak English." He's like, "Good, then you know what asshole means."
Nice.
Now get me my acid, asshole.
Yes.
So good.
Yes. And dude, and then that's another point where I feel like Jesse was at his best. Again, I'm not condoning what he's doing or anything.
No. But he just took it upon himself. Yeah, he taught everybody in another country how to cook.
He had that sense of belonging that I think he's always looking for.
When Walt was in exile, Jesse was the best meth cook in America.
True.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But I mean, I kind of wonder, where he's at, in fictional world, just with him busting through the gate or driving out of there, like. Is he going to get apprehended, or is he start a new life with somebody? I like what you guys said. You guys seem to be on the same page. Really good. All right, let's move on.
Let's do it.
Thorough stuff. Let's talk about Skylar. My tone kind of changed there. I started watching the show, and I'm like, man, what a great wife, and like so supportive, and like she really, you know, cooking breakfast every day, and just such a family person, and you know, he's really upset.
No
when
one on
Walt
the
had
show's
cancer.
without sin, Rob.
Yeah, but did I learn that? Did I ever learn
Yeah.
that? Especially in this show, man.
Yeah, that's true.
And by the end, man, just, you know, she kind of, I love the scene when her and Walt kind of got to talking, and he pretty much explained like why he was doing this. And
She asked him for a divorce.
yeah. I mean, oh man, there were so many scenes between them. Long story short, she kind of goes from being like super wife to like just drinking the glass of wine, kind of like blanked out, kind of stone faced, to I kind of like this, like I'm gonna get in and kind of help, and you know, I kind of, you know, almost like how Walt liked being evil in a way, like she kind of embraced that, and then she has the affair, and then she goes back to drinking the wine and being
like
stone faced
Macbeth
again.
in a way, pushing him
Yeah,
like that.
totally. That's a good analogy. So I couldn't stand her. Like, I can't blame her for anything. You know, like she was just reacting to things. But man, again, the roller coaster with her. What did you guys think of Skylar?
She played the part so well.
Yeah,
Shout out to Anna Gunn.
good job.
You're beautiful, by the way. You should.
Yeah,
Yeah, she had a lot of great scenes, and you're right. For a lot of the show, she was just like the wife, but they never really. She never really felt like a prop, you know, to me.
No,
the
like
wife.
you know, I love when like, you know, Walt takes her, like after the PTA meeting, Walt like has sex with her in the car.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, I just like because Walt's like, that's like the beginning of Walt's liberation. He's like, oh, I don't care if I'm in a public school parking lot. He's like, if there's gonna be cops around, he's like, you know, I'm gonna, you know, and everything like that. But with one moment with Skylar I didn't like is she's so stressed out because Walt's obviously lying to her and she can't figure it out. She goes and has a cigarette when she's 8 months pregnant.
I hated that.
I
yeah.
hated that part. But I'm sorry, Max, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh no, I think I was done. She had a lot of great scenes though. I loved when this was after Walt's surgery. He had the tumor out, and they're back at home, and she's like packing, and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to Hank and Marie's. I want you out by Monday." And she just lists how just that one line, which
All
was
of his lies, like in one.
the cell phone.
Yes,
He's like, "Which cell phone?"
she calls him out on every lie he's told.
It was
so
so
far.
good, dude. Every single lie. She's like, I
You
checked up on this. I checked up on this.
Yeah,
Oh,
got
man.
him.
I called your mother. She doesn't even know you have cancer.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, man. She did her homework.
Got him. Yeah.
That's
Good
also
call,
one of my
Max.
favorite moments. So that's the beginning of the end. That's how their relationship totally took a permanent change. Because when she gets in the car and Walt breaks down, he's like, "All right, please don't go." He's like, "I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you everything." And she's like, "I don't want to know anymore because I'm too scared to find out."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she gets to that point where she's like, the kids can't live here because I'm scared for their safety, you know.
Totally.
Meanwhile, the kid, well, I shouldn't say the kids, but the son had no idea what was going on. Let's talk about him too, since we're, you know,
Doing the
since
whole
we're
Walt-
yeah,
Walt-
since
yeah.
we're doing the family.
Oh,
how
Walt
cute was the
Jr..
baby, by the way? Adorable.
Aw,
yeah,
little baby.
but I loved. You know, if anyone represented innocence in this show, if anyone did, and it's hard to find someone in this show that did, I'd say it was I can't think of his name at the Walt Jr.
Walt Jr., Flynn, yeah.
Flynn, yeah.
Flynn.
And he was just such a kid, you know, like just driving and getting the car and you know, kind of being too cool for his parents at one point, but. You know, like you said, Mike, earlier, his dad was his hero, and even when like the parents were having problems,
that was tough to watch.
He always defended
so
his
tough
dad.
to watch because I mean I'm going to skip ahead, but I mean in the beginning when he's calling he's scared when he's breaking down, telling his dad, you know, you got to fight this. You know, I love you.
Oh.
You can't just lay down and die. You need to do, you know. And he starts like the Kickstarter campaign.
Oh,
Which of
yeah,
course
the
is making
website
like, you know, like $100, $200,
of drug money.
you know.
Yeah, did you tell me that was like a real like they made a real website or the
I
show
think
did?
like they use that picture. It's like, have you seen this guy? It's like that cheesy
Yeah,
Walter White like
yeah.
smile. But you know, it's just funny because his dad's like, my dad's he's doing the news report. And he's like, my dad's a really good guy. He takes care of us.
Oh, he's great.
And as funny as how Walt feels like emasculated in a lot of ways because he's been pushed over like for most of his adult life. He's got this one kid who looks up to him so much and everything. And it's sad the way that relationship ended. Like, again, I don't want to skip too far. But, yeah, seeing the innocence and seeing Junior kind of like, yeah, he gets his nice, what do you got, like a What kind of car was that? I don't even know.
Was it a Charger?
I think it was some kind of Charger.
Was it a Charger or a Challenger?
I think it was a Challenger.
Yeah. Really sweet. Yeah.
It's sort of like him taking Walt's side when his parents split up, even though
He called his mom something.
called his mom.
Yeah.
But
Definitely just like an innocent character, because he's sitting there thinking, the big secret that he finds out, Dad had a gambling problem.
True.
And so in his mind, chill out. No, Dad, don't go play cards. You have an addiction. Like he cared. Like
He did.
Man, and what a good performance by him, by the way. He was fantastic.
R.J. Mitty, who actually in real life does have cerebral palsy, not as severe, but he
I think he has the trouble talking, but
he does have like a speech.
normal,
He does have a speech impediment,
really?
small one, but he can. He doesn't need the crutches. He's totally like that,
So I have an unpopular opinion about Walter Jr.
Oh,
I absolutely
ooh.
hated that character. 100%. I found
You're
him so annoying. I could not stand Flynn. And then he changed his name to Flynn of all things, and I was
okay.
just like, oh, man.
Yeah, okay, the Flynn thing I could agree with you on.
I didn't
but
like
go
this
ahead.
kid to begin with, and now his name's ridiculous. Ugh.
Like too much of a goody two shoes kind
He
of.
just didn't do anything for me.
Okay.
He never really got involved in the plot of like Walter and Jesse, which
Yeah.
it is what it is.
But the payoff of that, I think, is the end when he's at the very end when Walt says we got to pack up and go, and him and Skylar fight, and
that was awesome.
And he gets in front of his mom and defends her when Walt has the knife.
He
Yes.
finally did something useful.
Seeing the poor look in his eyes go wide, and he's scared to death, and he's sort of like, "You're not my dad. Who are you?"
Yeah, realizes
And then
Finally.
know him.
that phone call later when
I was
Walt,
just going to bring that up.
when Walt calls him at school and he's like, "I'm sending you some money at your friend's house. I want you to make sure you pick it up." And he's like, "I hate you. Stay away from us. You killed Uncle
There
Hank."
was
He's
no
like-
way to
He's
fix
like, "You're
it.
an asshole." He's like, "I don't ever want to see you or talk to you ever again." And seeing Walt like break down crying because he knows like you screwed up, Walt.
Mhm.
You're never getting it
I
back.
think he says so. He's like, "Why don't you just die already?"
Yes,
Oh,
that's
there
the line.
it
That's
is.
intense, man.
That's exactly it. Yeah,
Ugh.
man, what a line.
It was the only good scenes with Walter Jr.
What a-
Everything else was garbage.
But
All he did was eat breakfast.
It's a wowee. Yikes. So
Yep, that's right.
that was a
bacon spelled out with the age, right? Always for
yeah,
breakfast.
that's right. Little things like that though, just brilliant. But that was essentially his exit, right? We did not see him again after that scene with the phone call, I believe.
Just one glimpse when he gets off the school bus and Walt sees him before he walks away.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
even remember that.
Good
But
call.
yeah.
When they're at that halfway house or apartment or whatever.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So I'm thinking I really liked the character just because I thought it was such a contrast from everything else. Like he was the
You're right,
representation
yeah,
of,
You're right about
of
being
innocence.
the best pure thing in the show. Because even
Absolutely.
we get to Hank and Marie, who's probably like even her kleptomania, but we'll get to that.
We'll
later.
get we'll certainly get there. We're gonna go to Hank next. Real quick, I wanted to say, I thought as I was watching the show, as he's getting farther, like Walt Jr. finally kind of just closes the door on Walt. Why don't you just die already?
Mm-hmm.
And you're a bad person, all that stuff, and doesn't want anything to do with him. Won't listen to him. Go away. I'm thinking, ultimately, as I'm watching, like Walter's going to embrace more so Jesse because he kind of lost his son, and that's the way I thought it was going to go. It didn't even go anything close to that. He took the bullet for Jesse, which is huge.
He was
but
ready to turn himself in after that.
How many times did they try to kill each other or betray each other or play
Oh,
mind
that- well,
games
that
with each
vicious-
other?
That vicious fight at the house when he's like, "Can you walk?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Good. Then get the F out of my house. Don't
Oh,
ever come
man.
back."
Yeah, that was intense.
So many of these scenes are so drawn out. It's crazy, but like I'm sucked in. Before we talk about Hank, I want to talk about just because Max had brought this up to me, Mike also brought this up to me. Show had such a good pace, but the one episode called I believe it was called The Fly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Max lead off on this one. That was one episode I watched, and I got it because like a lot of the dialogue, especially at the end, it was very important. But I definitely watched it, and I said, "This is different." They kind of did the bottle episode. Bottle episodes are hard, man. They drive me crazy sometimes. So I definitely noticed the pace, and I could see kind of like the cinematography and the art, and what they were trying to do with him. Ultimately trying to get the fly. But go ahead, Max. What did you loved it? Go
It
ahead.
stands out mostly
Totally.
to me because I think it's just Walter and Jesse the entire episode. You might hear some other people's voices, but it's just them. And it was a lot of dialogue in that episode, so I could see a lot of people finding it boring or whatever because it doesn't have a lot of action. But I was more or less fascinated about just the acting in that episode because there's a lot of scenes where they're just telling stories or just talking to each other, and it's just one shot. Camera's not moving anywhere. There's no cuts. It's just straight up acting between one another. It stands out like
down
that.
the hallways, all the lab
Yeah,
equipment,
yeah.
and everything.
It's so good. And then you've got the whole time for the second half of that episode, Walter, you can tell he just wants to tell him about Jane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, true, man. What a scene.
I'm sorry about Jane. I apologize. I thought he was going to say it right then and there.
Yeah.
And, like Jesse was going to fall off of the ladder or something, but
that episode, just kind of building off what you said, that episode with Jane and what she choked on her own vomit or whatever, and Walt is there and he goes to help her and then he just stops. That I think that might have been one of the episodes where he had like one of the big talks with Skyler. That was like season 3, episode 3 or something. Like I just remember like this is a good episode. Like stuff's happening, and I saw him stop like to help her. And just, again, like kind of the mind games with Jesse or to kind of get Jesse on his side or what was it, to get Jesse clean? Is that what
it was? Yeah, he knew that Jesse was really at his bottom with the drug addiction, and obviously Jane was trying to blackmail him. And he was also still mad at Jesse because Jesse caused him to miss the birth of his daughter because Jesse passed out stoned.
right.
And Walt was the one that had to go make the drug run.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah,
Crazy.
you're right. When Walter stops and you're like, why did he stop? And then you could see the gears turning in his head. He's like, "Oh man, he's gonna let this chick die."
You're just like, no.
As a lesson to him, Jesse's gonna wake up next to her. Ah, so
But he wasn't
cold.
he wasn't full at Heisenberg though. He stopped. He didn't stop her from choking. But obviously, after she choked and she was dead, then he saw like the remorse on his face. Like, oops, Walt, you got to realize all these choices you make, you have consequences, and it's like a string of pearls for the rest of the show.
That's just one of many, man.
Uh-huh.
Crazy. Mike, what did you think of the Fly episode? I remember watching it, and you said like there's a big.
I will never see anything bad about this show. No pun intended.
Mhm.
But, but yeah, I understand. Some people, that's the one hiccup they think that they have with this show.
Hiccup, really?
Some people think it is, and I'm gonna agree with Max. And I'm like, yeah, you got to look at the acting and in the camera work and everything like that. It's just two guys in a lab. And then it comes in like that one big moment where you think Walt's going to confess, and it doesn't. And they just walk out, and they're like, are we okay? Yeah. He's like, what do you want? Is he give anything to say? He's like, nope. All right. See you tomorrow, next time, and that's it. Sopranos has done a lot of those kind of episodes.
True.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but everyone's telling me to watch it.
Well,
That
I mean,
and
like,
The
'cause
Wire.
Jesse reminded me a lot of Christopher, a very hopeless character, always doing drugs.
Wow, I never thought that.
And that's
but
why
that's awesome.
if spoiler, no, I'm not gonna. Never mind.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna watch Sopranos. Yeah, and but by the way, we're not gonna talk about Better Call Saul at all.
No,
we'll
I'm
get
not
there.
talking about Saul. But
We'll get
I'm
there
saying like
once I watch it.
Kind of like with Tony and Christopher, I kind of saw that with like Walt and Jesse. And,
I never put those two. That's really cool that you mentioned that.
He's like a young character, obviously with much more potential, but just keeps screwing up, and it's like, stop it.
Yeah,
Like Christopher always with his drugs and his, screwing around with women on the side and everything like that, and Jesse, same way.
What did you think of the particular? I know we were talking about fans. Did you like it? I mean,
The Fly episode.
did you like it?
Yes.
Okay.
I loved when they were talking about the possum.
The possum.
Underneath Jesse's house. That was when his aunt was still alive.
Right. Oh
She
yeah,
was,
a lot of stuff.
She had. I don't know if they knew she had cancer, but she was like,
Yeah,
there was a
did.
possum under the house.
I think because he mentioned that's why he knew when Walt was like coughing up blood or something like that. He's like, "Oh, you got you got it." He's like, "I know. I took care of my aunt. That's why my aunt let me stay in the house after, even though his parents owned that house he lived in. His aunt said, "Oh, you can live here after he took care of her." That's when you kind of see a little bit of Jesse's like soft side. Also, going back to Jesse, I love the episode where he drops the ATM. Or he
Yes,
doesn't
I forgot
drop it, but
about
he's in the junkie
oh, man,
house.
that was an intense episode.
And that cute little kid with the
he
red
spends
hair.
all day with that kid, man. Giving him cereal and everything.
The
Yeah.
peekaboo and everything like that, and he takes him outside. He's like, "Cover your eyes, don't see your junkie parents and everything like that." And he's like,
that was crazy.
and he's like, "Guess what? The authorities are going to pick you up. You're going to go to like a nice foster home, and you're going to have a nice life. Okay, you're going to be okay." And he gives him a hug and pat on the head and leaves him alone.
Again, Jesse kind of needs someone, and that again, like even with was it Andrea's kids, like he, kind of needed that like sense of family or father figure. Yeah, you see that a lot with him, man.
Like Badger and Skinny Pete are there, but let's be honest, they're just there for the drugs.
yeah,
Yeah, they're not.
But they're his buddies. It's like, they go home and he's like, yeah, I got a cat. I got to feed it, man.
yeah. Well, you know what? Let's get into it now because I know Max's favorite character is Skinny Pete.
Skinny Pete was so good. I loved him.
Well, you know what was great about so many things, but like I had been like maybe into the third season, so he hadn't been on that much. Like he'd been on here and there, and Max is like, "Oh, like do you like Skinny Pete?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Is that the guy who da 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 da?" He was so good in the last season, though, man. I remember him playing like almost like the classical music when they were in Guitar Center or a Guitar Center type place.
Oh, the Star Trek discussion with the
That
two of
was
them.
amazing.
Oh, that was great.
It was amazing.
Starts beaming what was it, blueberries?
Something
Beaming
like
the
that.
Blueberries
He's like,
out of his
Lieutenant
stomach.
Uhura's coming out. She's got her own, her big,
Pointies or something.
pointies or something like that, man. And Kirk's like all distracted.
So good.
They're freaking great.
But yeah, Skinny. I mean, I feel like every show like that's gonna have characters that they kind of not throwaway characters, but stuff people you can write in and out.
yeah,
And for Skinny Pete and Badger, and even Combo, I guess too.
Combo.
Yeah.
They played their part really well. You know, they were
Combo,
memorable. They were comic relief. They could do the drama.
I
when
would
they
say
needed
Combo
to.
had more of an impact on the actual main storyline as it was.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
but yeah, Badger and Skinny Pete. Yeah, I mean,
Yo, man, I'm Skinny Pete. That's what he said. I heard that line when they were going to meet. I think it was Tuco the first time.
yeah.
And they wouldn't let him in. He goes, "Yo, man, I'm Skinny Pete." They point him at the camera and they let him in. But after that, I was like, I like this character. He's ridiculous, and he looks like a meth head too.
oh,
He's
one of my
great.
favorites is when Jesse's getting them all together. He's like, "All right, we're gonna be kings of the streets." I'm telling you. He's like, "Well, actually, I'll be king, and you guys will be like, princes or dukes or whatever." And then Badger's like, "I want to be a knight."
Yeah. They're so good. I loved it at the end. Might have been the last episode or second to last episode where Walt confronts Elliot and
Gretchen.
Thank you. And when he has the red dots on them, like
laser
snipers,
dots,
I
yeah.
knew Walt was up to his usual tricks, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
knew
yeah.
it was laser pointers.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was gonna be Skinny Pete and Badger.
Neither
though.
did I.
So that was a nice little.
I was so happy for that. Thank
Yeah.
you, Vince Gilligan, for writing.
It
them
was
into
great
that
to
episode.
squeeze them in the last episode
So
just for something fun like that. And he's like, "Here you go." He gives him. He's like, "I don't know how I feel about this. Like, how do you feel now?" And he gives them each a wad of cash. Like, "Here you go." And he's like, "I'm feeling better."
Better, definitely helps.
They were so fun. You needed character like on a show like this. You needed them. Like
And the best part is, we'll always come back to how great the acting and writing and directing is on this show. But they were good actors at the end of the
Yes.
day. They played their part really well. The whole scene, I think it was an opening with Badger and the undercover cop
yes,
on the bench. That was
Yeah.
such a cool. And again, they're just sitting there on the bench. There's nothing special going on. There's no crazy camera scene or angles or
No,
anything
it's
like
like
that.
yeah,
With DJ, what's his name? I know that actor too.
DJ Squalls or Qualls or whatever.
Something like that. But that was so
Oh,
good.
yeah.
If you just ask me if I'm a cop, I have to tell you if I'm a cop.
Mm.
But then he gets arrested.
Crazy, man. I'm glad we covered those guys too. Let's talk about Hank, big character.
My wife's favorite.
I think my favorite. I saw the pilot episode. I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna be a douche, and I'm not gonna stand him. And man, he was just like one character. Like,
I'm sorry. Go
there
ahead.
was like another roller coaster with him, man. Like he's one character. I'm like, oh, he's gonna be a douche
Mm-hmm.
and like inappropriate and like that guy you can't stand at the dinner table.
Absolutely.
You know, and man,
Cracking loud jokes
Yeah.
inappropriately at the parties.
and he was good at his job. He was passionate about his job, and he was always good to Walt Jr. I feel like I can't think of a time where he wasn't good to Walt Jr. Not always good to Marie. We can talk about her here as well. He basically had, did great job, with his detective work, and Gomi, his partner.
Gomi.
Just their dialogue was great.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
great
the only
back and
person he
forth.
can make like inappropriate like racial jokes, and Gomez is still there to take it.
He was a good
He
actor.
referred to Spanish as bean talk.
Oh,
or something like
ooh,
that. I
that's
was
not
like,
okay.
oh man.
Yeah, but like all the the
Mhm.
little but their chemistry was like on the pun intended
Mm.
was like, undeniable. Man,
You
I
see
should
that
I should
buddy,
open with
that
that.
buddy cop kind of dynamic.
Yeah, that's
with them.
exactly
Totally,
what it is.
Totally.
Yeah, and obviously he gets pretty much mowed down at one point, and you're like, oh, he's done. Somehow, miraculously, he
His most
survived.
badass moment surviving the Psycho Twins. Yes.
Yeah, totally, man. Those guys were crazy. but he becomes like super douche after that. You know, he's not.
Oh,
really
I hated him. See, even though I felt bad for him for nearly getting paralyzed and doing all this intense physical therapy, yeah, him being a dick to Marie.
Oh, it was awful.
And Marie, I know some people obviously they pair her with Skylar as being like the two unlikable sisters, but I felt bad for Marie because she was trying to be so supportive and loving.
She did everything
like that.
for him, yeah.
And he was like, I don't need your fancy football catalog. I don't need your. He's like, just hand me my minerals and get out, please.
Yeah.
And what does she do? It pushes her to go back into what do you call it? The klepto stuff?
Yeah.
Open houses.
Yeah. He had to bail her out a few times, and that was like her flaw. Everyone had their flaws.
He's yelling at her. He's like, "You got Cheetos instead of Fritos."
Yeah. Oh, I died inside. Oh man. Yeah, and you could tell he was frustrated, and he survived dying. So he gets a little wiggle room there, but man, he was unbearable. And then the rock collecting thing, that was interesting because I'm sitting here thinking, how did that? I remember unfolding. I don't remember how that started. Did that just kind of come into play because he had nothing to do?
Probably. Yeah, I would assume that. Yeah.
Yeah,
He got obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Which, that kind of repeats. He got obsessed with the blue meth. He was obsessed with Heisenberg.
Yeah.
So maybe that was him being
That's a
off
good
the
point.
job and just needed something to obsess about. That's what I thought.
I mean, he's obviously you couldn't get any more opposite with him and Walt when they established in the first season. Yeah, he's the loudmouth brother-in-law jock.
Yeah.
Like, I'm super cop. Hey, look, I did this bust. I got a couple $1 million of drug money. And obviously, he's very a good uncle to Walt Jr. and everything like that. But after taking out Tuco, you see a different side of him. The fact of the whole post-traumatic stress and him still trying to be like the big man at the DEA. At the DEA.
So many good scenes with him. Before I forget, I want to bring this up. Mike, I told you I had a couple theories while I was watching it. I thought someone at the DEA the whole time was going to be in on the drug ring or something. I thought I was thinking maybe Gomi, but I was hoping not. Just like someone who's there under your nose the whole time. I thought the chief dude with the mustache.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sitting here
yeah.
thinking, because he's friends with
Marquette,
Hector, or works with, has a association with Hector. I'm thinking he's in on it.
that would have been
the whole time.
really interesting.
I was looking for a twist that wasn't
Yeah,
there.
yeah. That
Which
would have
I'm
been
glad.
cool. I would have
think
liked to see
the point when Gus said, he's like, I hide in plain sight. That's why I'm like, Los Pollos Hermanos is a big supporter of the DEA. And then, of course, after we get to it later when Gus makes his exit and he gets exposed, Hank's boss gets fired because it's like, how did you know this guy who's supposed to be one of your best friends is the drug mule of the Southwest?
Yeah, you know what? I was going to actually ask about that. I wasn't sure how he got kind of bumped, but
That's
I figured
how he got fired.
It wasn't played out on camera.
They fired. He basically said that I got let go because for incompetence or something like that.
I mean, there was a super meth lab right under his nose the whole time. And Hank was telling him every day, hey, it's still going on. Hey, it's still going on. And they still didn't believe him. So
And
at
Hank,
least they let him retire.
Yeah. And Hank was my favorite character. And it took a lot of push for him to get back into his job. And the guy had asked him for help several times. His interaction with Skylar when he found out what was going on. And this took 5 seasons, for him to find out. It's under his nose the whole time. He came pretty close when he was investigating Walt's chemistry lab and stuff was missing,
in the high school, yeah.
First season or something like that.
But not before looking at the principal's butt when she was walking out the room.
Oh man,
Going back to douchebag Hank.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, when Walt tried to kiss the principal, I died inside.
Very uncomfortable.
I died inside.
The show made me cringe a couple times.
Yeah,
that did
Honestly,
too.
cringe.
It's just
And
like,
it was
Jesse's
like,
Jesse, did you get fired? He's like, no, I'm taking a sabbatical.
Yes.
indefinitely.
But anyway, another good scene with Hank, not good scene, another one that made me just cringe, when Walt gives Walt Jr. the little, a little bit of tequila.
Yeah.
And he keeps giving to him, and Hank's like, all right, that's enough. And Hank's good at handling these situations. Like, oh, that's enough. And he makes a joke the second time, and Walt just keeps, no matter what, gives it. So awkward. And then Walt Jr. gets sick.
It was the whole Walt trying to
awful.
prove you know what, you come in here and you're the macho guy, but this is my house. I'm the alpha male. I can when I say go. Then obviously a little bit of tequila will get you a little, loopy. And then Walt Jr. throws up in the pool.
Yeah.
My favorite things with Hank, though, I would say, is when he's as very tense it is when he corners Walt and Jesse when they're trapped in the RV at the junkyard.
Such a good scene.
And he's like, I'm just gonna hang out here till you get out. And what happens? They call that Murray was in an accident, and seeing him show up at the hospital in a panic, And then finding out, oh yeah, your wife, she's not here, she's okay. And then see him go into a fit of rage and see him like shaking.
Yeah.
It was great. Just great acting again. 'Cause
Again,
you
yes.
can see it in his face. He's just like pure worry for his wife and pissed
You got
off that
nothing
no one's
on me,
helping,
yo. Boom. And so
So good.
And then ultimately, like we talked a little bit about his scenes with Skylar, but ultimately his scene with Walt, what was it, in the garage? He's like, oh, Walt, come
that
look
is
at
one of
some
my favorite
rocks.
scenes in the entire show.
I didn't see that coming. What part was this?
I think it might have been like
Last season,
5.
very end.
When he confronts him about the tracker?
No, when he confronts
I think
him,
you're right.
when he finally says, when he like shuts the garage door and it's real slow, and he's like, he slams him against the door. He's like, the whole time it was you. And then you see him. That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole show. When I watched that, I rewound it and watched it again because I was speechless. But seeing him be like, and he's like, the whole time it was you. You're Heisenberg. He's like, he's like, everything I've put pieced together, it's all point. And Walt's like, my cancer's back. And he's like, well, then rot, you son of a bitch. And
doesn't Walt ultimately threaten him though too? He's like, don't come for me, or
he basically says, like, if you try to arrest me, you're arresting a dying man.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want Skylar and the kids away from you. And he's like, that's not going to happen. And you see Hank kind of like, it's like, oh my God. He's like, who are you? He's like, I don't know who you are. And he's like, then you better tread lightly.
Mm-hmm. It was intense.
And just to see, it's so perfect because it's funny because they were, they're brother-in-laws, but they were also, this is also, Hank kind of realizes this is also kind of like my friend. Like, he also was always respected.
best friend. Pretty
He's
much.
also always respected Walt for being like the smartest guy he's ever known, you know. And he always has said, like, damn, Walt, you are a genius. You should be like making a lot more money than just being in high school, you know. But seeing his friend and everything like that, and just
Friend and family
and everything, just kind of like, oh my God, who are you?
Yeah.
So good. And then they have that moment where they're just kind of staring at each other, and
it just goes to black.
woo, it was intense.
Yeah, man, you feel it.
But they both got that like that dead eye, like I could kill you kind of stare. And it's crazy because, you know, we know that Walter's very capable of killing people, but at the same time, Hank shot Tuco, killed that guy.
Yeah.
He shot the two twins, he killed those guys.
Yeah.
Or almost to kill those
I
guys.
just
So
think
they've
he's
both
almost
been
like-
through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but it's also it's.
Hank. I mean, let's just get to it. Hank going out was tough. I mean,
Yes, it was.
so that was one scene. I was literally like where you're sitting right now, Mike. I was like on the edge of the couch right there, like literally, just leading up those episodes leading up after Hank.
Hell, I
found
was
out.
sad when the scene opens up and you see Gomi lying there dead.
Right?
Because
yeah.
you don't see.
He didn't even get like a going out kind of scene.
Yeah,
He was just like,
exactly.
oh,
The
he's dead.
hail of bullets, and then they showed him, and he was already out.
Yeah, I'm gonna rewind a little bit. So we're like in the desert. They have Hank pretty much cornered, and you know what is Hank or they have Walt cornered. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't
Tender
Walt ultimately he kind of walks to them, or does he kind of
He
turn
does,
himself
yeah. He
over,
comes
I
out
think?
from out the rock because his car's sitting there. They're
Yeah.
like, dude, we got you.
Yeah, and he's in the back of the car, and you know there's a little bit of dialogue between them, and then you see all those cars roll up.
Because they
And
knew
you're
they had the evidence, too. They knew they tracked him down to where his money was, and they had the evidence there.
And I'm
They
sitting,
had Jesse's to corroborate and everything.
Yeah.
They had him.
but at this point, I see all these cars, Uncle Jack and his crew, right?
Right.
I see all these cars. I'm like, no, because Walt told them not to come, and
Yep.
sure enough, they come, and I'm like, no, because I don't know. I know what's gonna happen to Walt. You know, I know just from you. I don't know what's gonna happen to Hank. And I'm sitting there. He's been pretty much killed once already. I'm sitting there going, like, I think Gomi's going out for sure.
Yeah.
So I watched that episode, edge of my seat, literally edge of my seat. I don't want to say that was one of my favorite episodes, but that was like one I was in, man. Like I was into it, and I'm watching. I'm like, please no, like, you know, Hank's just doing his job, man, and you know, we don't want this to happen to Marie, to the family. Like, if Hank dies, like, how is the rest of this going to play out? Which we obviously see. So there's
Everything in that episode, Hank going out.
there's the shootout. The episode ends, and like you guys alluded to, we come back to that next episode, and Gomi's down. Hank is still alive. So in my mind, all right, he's gonna be okay, because I feel like he was gonna go out and be at the end of the episode. But no, we have that classic Breaking Bad dialogue.
Yep.
With Uncle Frank, Walt screaming in the back of the van. And, you know, I guess he ultimately comes out, and you think he's going to save him. And Hank delivers the line, "Walt, you're the smartest guy I know," but he made up his mind, 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, that was such a good line too.
And then he goes, "Do what you gotta." Poof.
Oh,
You know, like Hank goes
Killed
up,
him.
Hank like a tough, like a man.
Oh
Just
yeah,
do what
he's got one
do
of
what
his
you
best
gotta-
lines in that scene where he goes, looks up to Uncle Jack and he goes, "The name's ASAC Schrader. You can go fuck yourself." Oh, it was so good. Like what a thing to say, because he knows he's gonna die.
I mean,
so
hey
he
man,
might as well go out like a boss.
But
Yeah,
I also
but-
like Walt trying to like do whatever he could and be like, look, it's like I got $80 million buried here. You can have it all if you just let him go. Don't kill him.
didn't work.
Didn't work.
No, he was naive.
So
Hank said it. He already made up his mind.
that was a tough. And that was at the beginning of an
That was the
episode, or-
beginning of the episode, and then later on,
I think I had to pause it and kind of soak it in a little
because
bit.
then they kidnap Jesse, and then he goes home and has the big fight with Skylar and Walt Jr.
Yeah.
and then takes off. And my dad, when we were watching, he's like, if he kidnaps that baby, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to.
Oh.
Watching it, I was like, man,
That
he's
whole
gonna take the kid.
episode,
I know
that whole
it.
45 50 minutes straight, it was just a roller coaster. That's why you had to stop before you watched the last
Yeah.
two.
And I feel like that's where not like the show needed momentum, but that's where that season really picked up momentum. And then that run of episodes after that was just like, who's going to find out? And there was all that, like, where's Hank? Where's Hank? We haven't seen Hank. And you're just like, no. Like, man.
Yeah,
I love that last phone call to Marie when he's like, I
Yeah.
got him, baby. And he's like, I love you. I'll see you later. And he's like, I love you too. And I'm like, oh.
Kind of a exit for him, yeah.
And then she goes to the car wash and tells Skylar, it's like, he's arresting Walt right now. So you better tell Walt Jr. And I've seen Walt Jr. hear all this. And then, of course, you see later with Walt Jr. But
Yeah, man.
everything in that episode,
Huge.
the whole, ugh.
So that was a tough one for me.
Marie, not a lot of emotional arcs, but I mean, seeing her being the supportive, if we're going to go to Marie. Yeah, I mean, her kleptomania thing was pretty funny, going to the open houses and her, like, different identities.
Yeah, and it was almost like a coping mechanism for her. Like, it wasn't just like, an addiction it was, but like she did it, I think, more so when Hank was like a douche to her. That's when she was doing all like the open houses and stuff. That was so awkward. Oh, man.
But I think Marie's best moment, and this is my belief, is when she confronts Skylar after Hank tells her the truth about Walt. And she's like, did you know about this the whole time? He's like, is the online gambling a bunch of crap? It's like, yeah. It's like, did you know that Hank was almost got killed? And then Skylar's like, Marie. And then you see her eyes go wide and she smacks Skylar and because she's just horrified.
Nice.
Crazy.
And that's that was my favorite Marie moment, is when she hit Skylar, because it's like, I cannot believe you knew that they tried to kill my husband and you didn't do anything about it.
I love that we're sitting here like talking about these scenes and we just kind of go silent for a few minutes. Like we're just like kind of reflecting.
Because I'm
Moment of
replaying
peace.
each
We're
thing in
just
my
like,
head, and
whew.
it's like,
It's intense.
see, it's funny because it's like, it was so addicting when watching it back in the day. And I'm like, I gotta wait a whole week for the next episode.
Yeah, I didn't have
hated
to
it.
do. I didn't have to do that.
It's almost like you have to, like Rob said. You said, Rob, you had to catch your breath and like,
I had
oh
to
my
pause
god.
it. I had to pause it, man.
This show is full of moments that make you go, WTF?
Yeah.
And then there's a handful of other moments that make you go, like, just stand up and say, "Oh my God, really? Is that really happening?"
Like the stuff where like multiple people or like the cartel or whoever get like poisoned or shot down.
Oh
or
my gosh,
so
yeah.
many of those moments.
Should we go to Gus now? Then, if we're gonna go,
I'm okay with skipping Marie. I found her annoying too.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered it. But man, Hank, that was tough for me. Real quick, and we'll move on to Gus. Sure. Did you guys like Hank?
Oh,
course.
Hank,
Yeah.
great character.
I like 'em all.
Absolutely.
Might have been my favorite.
I liked everybody on the show, different levels, but
The
yes,
corny
we're okay.
jokes, the laughing at his own jokes. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. I was like, okay, I've met people like that.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
people. You know what I mean? It
Totally,
was
you know,
super
exactly.
relatable.
I
He's
know
like,
that guy.
Everybody's like,
Kind of like the
corny
obnoxious uncle at the party,
There you
at
go,
the at the barbecue. He's just like, "Come on, Walt, you need some excitement in your life."
But, I loved watching him do his detective work too. It was like I said about Walt when he was planning something out meticulously. It was cool to see Hank, doing his research. He tracked down the RV to some random gas station. He was like, oh man, I could pull the pictures from the ATM machine.
He's good, man. Thorough.
He
man.
yelling
He
at
pulled
like,
the
him yelling at the scared girl behind the desk, saying like,
poor
"I can-"
girl. But he picked up the thumbprint from Gus off of the soda cup.
Crazy.
At Pollos Hermanos. And I was just like, man,
He,
that's so
to his
smart.
credit, he was the first one to investigate Gus.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
He did.
Nobody
You know what?
listened.
He deserved to be like the chief. He really did,
Yeah,
or
man.
the director, or whatever you want to call it. And man, you just wanted to see a happy ending for him. You know.
Well, he finally
Catch Walt.
solved his case, man. That's why that scene when he died was
He
so
broke.
intense. He finally
broke
caught
him.
him.
He broke Walter White as Heisenberg. He can go down in history as that.
Mhm.
All right, guys. So now we have to talk about obviously a lot of people's favorite character. I would say Gus, and we'll talk about Mike a little bit too. Two great characters. Might I also add they were both in Community, so I knew both of those characters. There must have been some tie in there how they had gotten onto Community afterwards. Mike was a character called Hickey, who was a teacher in Community. He was very funny. You should watch him. He was only in like the 5th season or 4th season or something like that.
Gotcha.
And Gus was Pierce, Chevy Chase's brother, in a few episodes. And he was very well spoken and
Oh yeah.
yeah, but really good stuff. But let's start with Gus. Mike, take it away. Go ahead.
All right. Giancarlo Esposito. Oh my God. Killed this part. You
Fantastic
see that
cast.
guy. If you ever you go to a Wendy's or a Taco Bell, you see that guy right behind the counter. Guy with the glasses, always well spoken. Like, hello sir, can I get you a refill on your drink? Everything like that. And
Yeah.
hiding the dark side behind him is just, oh my God.
He could scare you without like saying much, and he never answered a question. Oh my gosh,
Oh, really?
drove me insane. Like why am I here? Why are we doing this? Da da da. And he would, especially with Jesse, like, what's the point? Is da da da.
True.
I'll tell you when you're needed, or something or I see potential in you. Like he never gave answers to anything. Like everything was
He had his own.
drove me nuts, but it made sense for his villainy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The stuff. Man, where do we go? We can go all over the place here. The stuff with Hector, the stuff with the kids.
His vendetta against the Salamancas, and this is another theory that I thought was
Oh yeah.
again presumed that I never thought was answered. That his partner who got shot.
Yes.
I'm assuming that they were lovers, and Vince Gilligan has pretty much kind
I
of
didn't
almost
think that.
he's almost attested. He's like, we never answered it, we never had a firm answer for it, but yes, it's assumed that they were a couple.
I got that vibe.
Because
Okay,
also when Hector is peeing in the pool, and of course he's like, oh, they want to watch anyway, they want to look. Obviously calling them gay. And obviously, So then, of course, when you see how much he flips out, I mean, would you snap that much if, like, just your business partner was shot in front of you? No. If it was the man you loved, yeah, you might go a little off the deep end, too.
Interesting. You know what? I that one went right over my head. I didn't
Oh,
even
yeah.
think. I'm just like, oh, this is his
And being
friend.
the Breaking Bad nerd that I am, that is Max Arkle, whatever his name is, but the scholarship that he set up at UNM, that Gale won, that chemistry scholarship, it was
Yeah.
named after his partner.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
good
That's
call.
really cool.
That's why he selected Gale. He's like, oh, Gale's this brilliant chemist. He got the scholarship
Ah,
at
that
UNM when he
makes
got his.
sense.
That's why I picked Gale to be my hand-picked chemist for our super lab.
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean that was all a theory that Gus was gay, and it was never 100% confirmed. That just was alluded to. But yeah, seeing that flashback episode, it's like, oh, we're making chicken, but we're smuggling drugs through it, and the cartel's like stuck in the whole 80s. Like, no, we're gonna do cocaine. Cocaine's the way to go.
And then finally, he poisons pretty much all of them, even himself.
Max, go ahead, do the.
Oh, he got his revenge for sure. I mean, yeah, they murdered his partner and possibly lover in cold blood, right there in front. I made him watch as he died.
Yeah.
That was crazy. But yeah, it was really cool when I just remember Mike says to Jesse, "He's like, listen, either we're all leaving or none of us are." And after that, I was like, oh man, so
Mike's so freaking cool.
something
I love him.
intense is about to happen here, and lo and behold, he kills, the Don Eladio and
He
all of his capos.
And he throws up in the bathroom. He throws up the tequila. And then that one shot of him walking out of the bathroom, camera follows him behind his head as he walks out on the patio and sees all the cartel guys choked, poisoned, passing out. And then the hookers
Crazy.
are like picking their pockets.
Crazy scene, man.
But yeah, that was man. He can be ruthless. He poisoned and murdered all of those people.
And you also see that's another thing we talked about with Jesse killing Gale point blank. But that one he killed one guy, but he did it in self defense, so that was okay.
True.
When he tried to make the getaway, and he Mike's shot, throws him in the car. Gus is poisoned, throws him in the car, and then Jesse makes the getaway. That's another big
Jesse moment.
one-up Jesse moment.
Yeah, and then they get to their little like medical station, and they have like the blood for everyone in the freezer. That was crazy. Like,
Oh yeah, that was
like they were all prepared. Like that was nuts. Like there was a plan. Jesse really has no idea what's going on. He never tells anyone anything.
No.
But that's his character. I have to say this about Gus, man. Just like all his little lines, like Max had said a couple, but now thank me and shake my hand, like stuff like that. Like where he just plays the part, and he's always very concerned. And then he straight up gets interrogated by the DEA, and he handles it like a pro. And,
oh man,
I was here. You can confirm. Is there anything
But
else
you see
I
him
could
shaking
do to
in
help?
the elevator after he's done.
Yeah.
You see like the little twitch in his
Yeah.
eye because he knows like, oh my god, now
I mean,
they're
that's
finally on to me now.
probably the closest he's ever gotten to getting
Being
caught.
rattled. Yeah.
It's nuts. So funny thing here. So again, I'm watching the show. It's been out for years and years and years. I know I've just watched it in the past 3 months, and I kind of have a feeling he's going out. So I see referenced a few times. I see like the pop vinyl figure of him, and his face is melted off or whatever. Of course they make those pop vinyls, they make everything, but of course that particular one. So my thought is someone catches up to him, namely Walt, and is going to stick his head in a chicken fryer. That was like my theory, and like burn his face and maybe kill him that way. I didn't know, but that was like my thought, just because I saw like the little thing.
You were
That
wrong.
was another one of my theories. But of course he goes to visit Hector. And Walt teaming with Hector was really interesting. First of all, that bell haunts me, man. I was thinking about throwing it in the intro, the ding, 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 ding. That just like the first season was that with the bell. Is this the guy?
It's a funny thing. It's hard to out
the
psycho
food.
Tuco, but Hector was even scarier than Tuco. It reminded me of like one of those crazy David Lynch like scenarios where they're out in the desert in some little hut, and Tuco, who's like obviously coke, on speed, everything else.
Oh, he was nuts.
And then what happens is Hector's there, some carry old man, ding, 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 just in the bell. Like, that whole Salamanca family is all kinds of effed up, but
Crazy villains, man, but awesome. But, ultimately we see Hector kind of, I guess maybe some foreshadowing with Walt a little bit, but taking himself out to take out Gus,
True. Yeah. Ultimately getting his revenge
in the old folks' home or whatever. That's messed up.
Oh, it's when Walt was like, I know you hate me because you think I'm responsible for Tuco dying. He's like, and I kind of am, but he's like, I think there's somebody else you hate even more than me. And let's face it, you're sitting here, you're, crapping in a bedpan. You can't even go to the bathroom yourself. You can't even talk anymore because hey, you want to help me out?
And he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
They paint those cartel people and Gus and his people to be really, really crazy, man. They're psychos. They chopped off Danny Trejo's head and put it on a tortoise.
Yeah, how do we not talk about him?
La Tortuga.
Tortuga.
That's right.
And then blew it up.
Yeah,
again. They're absolutely crazy.
Adding more to Hank's post-traumatic stress being out in the field.
Or Gus taking this is one of my favorite Gus scenes where they took Hank out to the field, and he was like, "All right, you're fired, but he says, I'll kill your whole family. I'll kill your wife. I'll kill your son. I'll kill your infant daughter."
That's another
crazy.
We talked about at the beginning of the show our podcast is how you love him and hate him in next. I was loving Gus getting his revenge on the cartel. I'm like, yeah, good for
that
him.
was sick.
Such a badass moment.
Again, who are we rooting for?
But then the next episode, he rips the hood off Walt's head and it's like, you're fired. Don't show up at the lab. I'm like, your brother-in-law, he's done, and your other family, they're not getting involved. I'll take them out. You're done.
Oof, scary. Chill.
It's scary, and he's so just seeing him like just knowing, like I said, you go to any fast food restaurant, he's behind the counter.
Yeah, because he
all
did have
well-spoken and
an
smart.
everyday kind of Joe vibe about him.
Yeah. And he was, there's there's a lot of thought put in every character and every scene and every shot. But something I'm sure you guys both noticed too, he would always like before he cut that guy up with the box cutter or whatever, he put on, slowly took off his tie, slowly very Mr. Rogers, took off his jacket, put on the suit, and then he's done killing the guy, and then he put his jacket back on. So naturally, when he gets blown up, and he steps out, he straightens his tie, and then
Camera pans around, and he's missing half his face, and yeah.
Well, you said right.
Appropriate.
He slits the guy's throat, then calmly, puts his suit back on, walks upstairs, like, all right, now get back to work. And you find out later
barely
he
says
killed-
anything that
he
scene.
killed Victor because Victor showed up at the crime scene. That's why he killed him. Also to kind of send a message to him. But he's like, get back to work. He's like, okay, well now we got to take this body and put it in a barrel and then get back to work.
Crazy. Yeah, lots of that going on.
But it's just funny how in a world like that, he was like the ultimate businessman. How it's like he had everything, smuggling the drugs and the fry batter and shipping it all over the Southwest. And he was like perfect,
Yeah.
What was he more rich off of? Was Pollos Hermanos or the drugs? You don't even.
Seriously.
But
crazy, man. Everything about him, even when he was cooking and stuff, like everything was so precise.
Very methodical.
Methodical, that's the word, man.
I mean, he wasn't supposed to be a long character. And he told Vince Gilligan, he's like, if you're going to cast me in the show and I'm going to be a regular, I will give you 120%. And he did.
Oh, really? He was supposed to go out earlier?
Well, I mean, they made it. Well, I think they only were supposed to make him like a contact. But he's like, you make this character. He's like, this character can be something even better.
Wow.
And it was.
Yeah,
It's a great character.
Yeah, worked out, man. Let's talk about Mike a little bit. Let's talk about Mike. Obviously, Mike, you said your dad's favorite character.
my dad's favorite character. I mean, he always had
Where
those
to start?
one-liners like the pimento cheese sandwich. Just like he's such a tough guy, but he's like, all right, what are we doing now? He's like, I have a cheese sandwich. I'm just gonna hang here and wait. And
A lot of waiting, man, with him. Just sitting in the car, reading
Such-
the paper,
totally.
watching his granddaughter,
That's the great thing with Mike is, like you said, he picks up his granddaughter, takes her to the park, brings her home, gets her some balloons. What happens? He takes his own balloons and uses them to take out power lines and
That was
knock
cool.
out, was it Chow?
Chow.
When Chow was getting held up by like cartel members, but
He had a couple other little tricks like that. I'm trying
hiding
to
in the
remember.
back of the hiding in the what do you call
The
it?
freezer.
In the
freezer
freezer.
truck, yeah.
And then his like piece of his ear was hanging off. And he had to
Oh,
get
that
sewn
was
back.
crazy. Another
That was
crazy
intense.
scene.
Yeah. He shot
But
that thing up.
What a pro.
Him not when Walt says like, "Oh, get me in a room with Gus, I can take him out," and he punches him out. He's like, "Nope, not doing it. We have a great thing going." He's just also very business-like. He's like, "Don't screw up the chain of command. I'm head of security. You're the cook. He's the businessman. We're all making money. Let's just keep it as is."
And then when he's like paying everyone out and dividing the money, this much goes here, this goes to my guys.
Because he wasn't a greedy guy. He's like, just get me paid what I want to get paid, and that's it. He's like, Mike was awesome because Mike never screwed anybody over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was by the
He was-
books.
I guess
He never went after or tried to kill anybody unless they went after him first, like we saw with Lydia later on. But so many great things with Mike. But I mean, also just the fact his delivery of one was like
Of all of his lines.
all of his lines. He's like, "Walter, step out of the car and come forward." He's like, "I need some assurance first. I assure you I can kill you right from here, Walter."
Yeah.
He always sounded, every line he delivered, he sounded like he didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And it was just such an interesting take on a hitman.
Well, we know
on a
his evenings to
bodyguard.
an end. He's making enough money for his the stash away for his granddaughter, and then
Mhm.
that's it.
And she
Done.
didn't get the money ultimately, right?
No, she didn't.
'Cause
It
I
was
don't think
smuggled.
so,
It
no.
was taken by the DEA, and unfortunately, and when he went on the run,
That was
Yeah.
kind of his happy place with his granddaughter. He's like, pop this, and
Yeah.
Pop wants balloons too, or something like that. It was really cute, but kind of humanized him a little bit. But again, he almost like embraced Jesse, like almost. They had that really interesting. That was just like one relationship in the show that really stood out to me. I don't know what you guys think about that.
No, he did. He took him under his wing, and he was saying like, good luck, kid. He's like, do yourself a favor, do the right thing, be smart.
I feel like he did say that a lot to at least Jesse.
Yeah.
Be smart about it, do the right thing. Don't just follow this Walt guy around because nothing's good going to come about it.
He was great, and even when he talked to Walt, he was great. Come on, Walter, like I just like their little chats,
And the final thing he says to Walter, and he's like, this is all your fault. He's like, I have to run away. He's like, now my grandmother's not getting her money. He's like, we had a good thing going with Fring, and you screwed up because your ego got out of control. He's like, you didn't know your place. You just had to be the boss, didn't you? He's like, look at it now.
Yeah,
And
there's
of
so
course-
much of that in this show.
And Walt didn't have to shoot him, but chalk it up to another Walt going bad moment.
yeah. And he's like at that like riverside or whatever, and he's just like, stop talking, Walt. Just let me enjoy this view or something.
Yeah.
And you just sit there in silence. He's just like enjoying like the beautiful view, and then just falls over.
Slumps over.
Yeah, that was a crazy one.
I was sad to see him go.
Yeah, you know,
Just because I really enjoyed the character.
Yeah,
The
like
quiet badass.
super evil man, but like it's weird. Again, who are we rooting for? Like,
But was he
it's so
full? But he
weird.
wasn't psychotic. He was just a bit. You know, he was.
He was a businessman.
He was busy, but he wasn't like a psychopath.
And again, handled the interrogations very well. With,
Oh, that was a great
DA.
scene, actually.
Yeah,
when
just
he-
great. He's like, "You got nothing to say?" Mike, he's like, takes out a business card. Saul Goodman, that's my guy. Call him. He's like,
Yeah. Really interesting.
went on a trip to Belize.
Should we talk about Saul Goodman? We heard from him a little bit at the beginning of the show. It's nice of him
Saul.
to do the little plug at the beginning of the podcast. Good for.
Well, this is a podcast, but if you want Howard Stern and want to pay those high-end satellite radio fees, by all means, be my guest.
Thanks, Saul. Comic relief right out of the gate. Loved him. Mike, I think you were talking about like the Beatles comparison, like or just like the little.
It's just
quips.
everything. Like after Jesse gets his face pounded by Hank, he's like, "Oh, he's like, Walt, you're now the cute one of the group. It's like you're Paul and he's Ringo."
Yeah, it's great. It's great, man.
He got a lot of great one-liners in there. He had like a ball breaker vibe to him, you know. He
Yeah.
felt like I felt like that's somebody you would see on like the East Coast, not in the middle of
Yeah.
New Mexico.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like the super cheesy like posters and
Oh my
billboards
gosh,
and like
the
his
late-night
office.
commercials. Yeah. Oh my
They-
god, the big Statue of Liberty.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
it's
the
amazing.
inflatable, like I mean, if you notice outside of his office, he
It's like the car salesman
exactly.
of lawyers.
He's a car salesman with a law degree. That's and the thing about Saul is, and Bob Odenkirk has said before, it's like he doesn't pretend to be anything other than he is. He's the biggest scumbag. He's like, I will get you out of this on any legal technicality I can find.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll get you the best defense that money can buy.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, he did do right by them pretty much all the time. As long as he got money, right? He pretty much did do right by Jesse. I can't think of a time.
No, they paid him. He took care of their stuff for them.
Yeah, I don't think he sold anybody out ever.
And I think he mediated Skylar and Walt towards the end there. Like, he mediated them as, like, best he could.
At the very end. You're talking about at the very, very end? when he was on the-
I just remember them being in his office. It might have been before the car wash thing or after.
When he's trying to help them launder their money.
Yeah, maybe that was it. But
Laser tag didn't work.
yeah. Oh, yeah. They were going to all the places. Yeah. But he was just great comic relief. Just like every line, like because things got real in this show all the time. And then you kind of had a scene in Saul's office, and it just kind of
He eased the tension, even though
Eased
he
the
was in a
tension.
panic. But I mean, he would put like, he's like, "Look at this, we're in trouble now. You guys want to stick your wangs in a hornet's nest?"
Yeah. It's
He's
always
like, "So how
something
come I got sloppy seconds?"
yeah. It's always something like that.
But he did have his like moment at the end when he was being legit to Walt when Walt was about to make his go on the lam at the very end when he says like, "Here's what you should do: turn yourself in. That way your family will not be like your family might be able to keep their house, maybe even the car wash." He's like, "You'll have to pay fine, everything like that, but this is only if you turn yourself in, your family will not get indicted for conspiracy." And trying to actually give real sound legal advice.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we all know that didn't happen, but him trying to be legitimate, he's like, at least you can do that. He's like, for me, I'll be managing a Cinnabon in Nebraska.
Yeah. You guys have any other like favorite lines from him or anything? There's just so many.
There's so many.
Yeah.
All his disgusting comments to his secretary. Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah, very rude. It was very interesting to see him kind of do the vacuum cleaner salesman kind of out or whatever, and he's kind of hidden away with Walt, and which I didn't expect to see with Saul. I thought he might disappear on his own, but I guess he was disappearing.
oh no, Huel and Kubi, gotta love them.
And then Walt was Walt was trying to again Walt work with Saul at the end there, and Saul's like, no, like I'm disappearing, and then I'm sure he has a line or something to Walt, I can't remember, and then he just kind of walks up the stairs or something for the bunker,
That's the
and that
one.
was his
That's
exit.
the scene in the basement when he says like, "Here's what you want: turn yourself in, so that your family is not like out on the street and
right.
everything like that."
That was it. Now, obviously, I have not watched Better Call Saul.
gonna
I don't
say
think
anything.
I don't think Max has either.
No.
Once we do, we'll definitely get together and talk about it for sure.
That
but
takes
that's,
that character in a million different directions.
Well, I'm just excited to see more of any of the characters from the show.
True.
So I'll have to watch it maybe
My
in the
lips are sealed
summertime.
until then.
Correct.
But, okay.
Yeah. Very good. All right, that's a wrap on Saul. Who else do we need to talk about here? I think we covered a lot of these guys. Let's talk a little bit about these season 5 characters. Todd, evil Todd.
Meth Damon, as some people have called him.
Yeah.
I can see that actually.
We'll talk about Uncle Jack and Lydia too. Let's just group them all together. These season 5 characters. I thought Todd was an interesting character because he had almost like that, competition with Jesse, like almost like for like. Did he? It almost seemed like he wants some sort of approval from Wall or something. Like he wanted to be Jesse. I don't know.
He
Something like that. You didn't see that?
No, I totally got that because especially after Jesse says I want out and he goes out, then Todd becomes his protege.
Yeah.
And Todd's like taking notes on all the process and it's like,
Yeah.
I really want to try to get this, I want to get this on the right, Mr. White. He's like, oh, no worries, I can take you a couple times. You got it. You did good. Don't worry, young man. He's like, that's another scary thing about Todd is he's like this, so like this nice. He looks like this like polite kid. Looks like he's like a Midwestern And then of course when they go to the desert and steal all the methylamine from the train, then you see
Crazy scene.
crazy Todd.
Yeah, yeah. So that was interesting. That episode, because you don't even think when you see these things at the beginning of the episode, you see the kid on the little dirt bike or motorcycle or whatever. And he puts the spider in the jar, and you're just like, this is just more them just shooting cinematography, different scenes.
I
and
told you,
stuff
Rob,
like
everything has a meaning.
that. And then the end of the
teddy
episode,
bear in the
and
pool.
the freaking kid just waves, like wasn't gonna do anything, just waves, and he shoots him. And that hurt. That was rough.
I didn't see that coming.
It was rough.
Well, the kid did see them, what they were doing, but he didn't understand. He easily could have told the kid, "Hi, we're just transferring this stuff.
Yeah,
no
we're
big
fixing
deal."
the railroads or something.
Yeah.
I mean, and I
But
think the
Todd
kid genuinely waved. Like, I didn't think he was
No.
like, "Oh, hey." He was just like, "Hi." Like, that's what I got out of it. I need to watch it again, but
He was a kid. I mean, they could have easily, if there's other ways you could have handled that. Before they can even say anything, Todd pulls out his gun and shoots the kid.
I didn't think Todd was going to be much of a character, to be honest with you. He's got even such a boring name, Todd.
yeah.
But they kind of wrote him
That's
into
perfect for him, though. He's just such a little
slightly big thing.
he's like a howdy doody with like a little bit of
It ended up being he played the part well, I guess. He just there was something twisted about that guy, man. Psychopath.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
he had that little
Psychopath.
boy face, but also he was like really like disturbed underneath, and he let that go out.
So I actually did think they were going to go somewhere with him because when they were, first of all, again, more of the creativity and cleverness in this show when they were going house to house to make the labs with the exterminator. But when they introduced the extermination crew and they're like, this is the guy, and
Vámonos
this guy, yeah. What's the name of your band? That was awesome.
That was good.
Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that, Max. But like they go house to house and they were introducing. Who was it, Mike, or I forget who was it Saul? Who introduced him to the pest?
I think
it was
Saul. I think it was Saul.
And he goes, this guy's this, and this guy does this, and this is Todd, and blah blah blah. And I felt like they made kind of a point to point out Todd a little bit. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
they probably
okay,
did.
he's going to do something, and then you would see him get more and more involved.
Well,
but
he
I really
pointed
felt
out the
that
name- he told-
competition between him and Jesse, man. And I think kind of when he captured Jesse at the end, like. That was kind of like a point of pride or strength for him.
Or
Is
like dominance more. Yeah.
Jesse's my,
But he also said like, he's like, oh, sir, Mr. White, there's a nanny cam in there. I took care of it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost like
And
a
he-
goody two shoes for him. He
Yeah.
wants the gold star.
Like he was
from-
basically saying like, I want to be like, move up. I want to do what I can. So that's when
He had that weird crush on Lydia. I thought that was creepy.
Yeah, really.
you hear
creepy
Journey
shit.
playing in the background. He's wiping the lipstick off the mug.
That was so weird.
Let's talk about Lydia a little bit. I mean, key player, obviously not too much of her. Kind of paranoid. I mean, if I was her, I'd be paranoid too.
The actress, I forget her name, Scottish, but she spoke German very well. I'll give her that.
Oh, really?
Laura Fraser, I want to say. I think that's her
Yes.
name.
Wow, good job, Max.
Um,
Came prepared.
She was an annoying character to me too, but in a
Yeah.
good way. You know what I mean? Like she just was over the top, always worried about everything. I love the scene where she goes to meet Mike for the first time in the diner, and they're like facing opposite directions. She's like, "Don't turn around. We'll talk like this." Mike's like, "I guess I'm coming to you." This is ridiculous.
He's got time for that.
It really set up the character. We're like, okay, she's like paranoid out the
Very
butt.
jittery, wearing the big
Jittery.
sunglasses, and she's like, "You can't talk to me like this." Yeah, that. She's like, very like OCD with like her, her tea and everything like that, and you almost think that. She has a daughter and she wants to take care of her daughter. It's like the only I think like relatable or likable thing about her at first, but she's like but they didn't delve too much into it. I think the only reason Mike spares her in that first part is because she has a daughter.
As a child, yeah, I thought that too.
And then later on, he's like, "Look, she lied to us once already, and she tried to have me killed. So now I'm not giving her any more chances."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she definitely became unlikable.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps
And then
her up.
also
Really
being like
need-
her OCD, like after Walt leaves and she tries to get him to come back to the business, he's like, I'm not coming back. Go away. And Skylar has her badass moments like, drive out of here. Don't ever come back. Leave my husband alone.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Oh, go ahead.
And I'm sorry. Then when she sees the meth and she's like, well, how come it's not blue? And she's like, this is 85% pure. He's like, yes, but our customers expect it to be blue. Like, he's like, it's good enough.
Mhm.
Like, you know. So what does she do? She has all those guys killed, and the white supremacist Uncle Jack and the gang come and, you know.
Yeah. And
Take over.
we'll talk about Uncle Jack next. By the way, Mike was nice enough to bring some Blue Rock candy.
Oh, yeah.
Like from Wegmans, like legit candy. Don't worry, people.
This is
Look at
Blue
this.
Rock, baby.
That's good. Max,
looks
you got to take
delicious.
one.
Yes.
All right, very good.
I'm excited to eat it.
Did you have something to add about
I was
Lydia real
I
quick?
was happy with how they
Thanks,
got
bro.
rid of Lydia, which I guess didn't really play out on screen so much. But yeah, the ricin for her in her stupid sugar.
Yeah,
packet
that
or
was
whatever
good.
the
I'm
hell.
glad you brought that up because I completely slipped my mind.
That
Yeah.
was so nice.
You know what? And if I was smart, I would have caught on just because they were so specific about that through the.
They show shots of like the ricin here and there, and the whole time you're like, all right, but yeah, who's he using it for? Because they don't really
Yeah.
give that away. Like, okay, he's got the ricin. He came back to his house all those months
The
later.
ricin.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is the ricin. Like it was originally going to use. They put it in Tuco's tamale.
Mm-hmm.
He never ate it.
Yeah.
And then it looked like they were going to try to make it for Gus, and then he had it in a cigarette and didn't work.
Then we thought the boy had.
We
it.
thought the kid had it. Brock. Turns out he was, just getting a fever. And then he took the ricin and stashed it behind there. And then of course Walt goes back to his house when he comes back to Albuquerque and finds it. He went all the way back there because you remember he stashed the ricin behind the
good.
socket. So I told you, Rob, everything has a point.
Yeah,
And finally it
yeah,
got
and
used.
that was like sitting there for episodes, like little things carry over.
And what happened?
I like that.
Somebody got it, puts it in the ricin packet. There it is. It was kind of like the reverse bear trap in Saw. You're like, when is somebody going to use it? It took like 5 movies for it to happen. But
I was satisfied with how they used it though, because Lydia became annoying.
yeah, and just seeing her like sweat, he's like, oh, he's like, Lydia, guess what? You're sweating right now. You're feeling a little sick.
Yeah.
That's the ricin. You got about 12 hours to live. Bye.
Yikes.
So good.
And you know how much she panics when things are going well. So how much is she going to be like flipping
well,
out?
that was
and-
the best part, yeah, because like she's broken down. This is like the end, and now Walt's on the phone saying, "Yep, you're going to die.
Yeah,
this is your biggest fear." All those people you tried to murder and all that stuff to try and clear your
He's
name.
like, you
or
tried to wipe
whatever,
me.
and-
You tried to wipe me out because you didn't like my appearance and everything like that, and you didn't like everything else.
Crazy. Man. Real quick, let's just lastly, as far as characters, let's talk about Uncle Jack real quick. Long story short, I feel like we needed like a villain to go with all of these villains, like, and ultimately we needed in that season 5 like a bad guy that wasn't Walt, and that was them, man. Them pulling off that what was it that execution in the jail within a 2-minute frame or something. Was it
It was
13
intense.
people?
Yeah.
Insane, man. But they were just, they took out Hank. I think that was a big, spark plug for us to kind of hate them even more. And they were just.
Well, I mean, it's also like that gang mentality because they know, like obviously, because it's like they're a white supremacist gang. It's like a big culture in prisons. Like, oh yeah, we got people who could take them out. It's no problem.
Absolutely.
But it's also kind of cool they didn't like overplay that. Like they never said anything like, oh, we hate this, we hate this. We just noticed that they're in leather. They got some of the the tattoos.
Yeah.
Kind of tell some of that kind of stuff, but they never went full overblown with that.
Yeah, I got
But
you. But we hated them.
But yeah, you knew they were not likable people. Were criminals. Were like Sons of Anarchy. Just like
And I
in a
think
way.
they were kind of like that, because Walt lost everything. He lost everything.
If you notice, Uncle Jack was also Buck in Kill Bill. Just putting that out there.
Buck and Kill Bill.
Who was
Fucking Kill
Buck?
Buck was the one who, when Uma Thurman's in the coma, those guys come in and
Your name. My name is Buck, and I let yeah.
Oh boy.
yeah.
Thanks for that.
I didn't know that. That's cool. I gotta look for him now.
But I think you almost said Buck. Uncle Jack is was ultimately like that last hurdle for Walt because he had lost everything, and I don't know, maybe I don't want to say redeeming quality, but that was just like the
He got his
ultimate villain.
Yeah, I mean, after he knew that he was ultimately responsible for killing Hank, so at the end, after his big contraption takes them all out,
And
he's
he
like-
didn't know Jesse was a prisoner there.
he didn't.
He knew
thought
Jesse was there.
He thought Jesse was working with them.
Right. So he ultimately saved Jesse.
So when he saw that Jesse was pretty much a prisoner, he's like, okay, maybe you're not. And he's like, and you're the reason you're a prisoner is because of me. I turned you over to them. So he was spending the last several months getting, tortured and abused So the last thing I can do is try to save you one time. And that's why after he shoots Jack, which of course Jack is like, I'll give you the money. He's like, I don't care about the money. Boom. And that one great last scene, if we're going to talk about the end of the show, but when he's like, go ahead. He gives him the gun. Walt gives him the gun. He's like, go ahead, Jesse, shoot me. He's like, you want this? And he's like, no. You want this. Be honest with me. And Walt's like, fine, I want this. And Jesse's like, I'm not doing your dirty work anymore. You want to die, kill yourself.
I loved it. I felt like it felt like what the entire show was leading up to regarding Walt and Jesse's relationship.
He's like, I'm not.
Finally reached the end. Jesse was finally done.
I think
with
Jesse was appreciative in a way that he saved. That they just had like that one little nod before you drove away, but kind of like the fact that you've been manipulating me this whole time. Not anymore.
Totally. Really good. I think we covered all of it, guys, real quick. Were there any, like, I think we covered a lot of it already. Are there any, like, favorite scenes, lastly, that stood out to you? I think we...
So many good scenes.
You know, I'm going to listen to this, and I'll be like, oh, I forgot to bring this up, and I forgot to bring this up.
I have a few, but I'll let you guys...
No. Lead it off. Go ahead.
Well, it's funny, because even in the first season, when he, like, quits his job at the car wash, and he's like, F you, Bogdan. He's like, It's like, fuck you and your eyebrows. You can. I'm sorry.
No, you're
that.
That's all.
And you wonder, like, is that ever going to come back? And then, of course, when they buy the car wash, and Bogdan is saying, like, oh, yeah, your wife, who's the boss in the relationship, I guess she made the deal, huh? Like, trying to get jab at him before he left. And he's like, you get everything as is, Walter. And he's like, oh, yeah? He's like, well, then that dollar bill you have on the wall, that's mine. Give it to me.
Yeah, it's just like the
his first dollar for his
He's
business.
like, this is my first dollar bill he ever earned. He's like, as is, so leave it.
That was
so
a really
take
good
another
scene.
jab at him. What does he do? He buys a Coke with it, and then that's
so
it.
Good.
Oh,
Just
man.
breaks
the
the frame, puts a dollar bill in the machine, and drinks a Coke.
All the
And
things
that's
he
it.
could have done with it, and he just buys a soda.
It's
I was like,
amazing.
that's intense. That's perfect. What an ultimate FU. He's not even there, but it was a great FU. That is a good scene. I'm racking my brain because I know there's so many.
For me, I know we already talked about it. For me, just that whole like dialogue Walt had with Hank in the garage, and then just
That was
Hank,
one of my- like I said,
the
one of my
shoot,
favorite
the
scenes.
shootout, like where I'm just like on the edge of my seat, like is Hank gonna get through this? Like that for me, just that whole scene kind of just opened a new door to like this like thrilling edge of the seat for every episode. That was a big scene for me where Walt and Sky kind of are both on the same page, like they both know what's going on, and he finally just it gets to explain to her that he's doing it for the family and for money, and this much is going to be for college, this much is going to be for for you guys to provide for yourselves, and I thought that was a good scene, really good stuff. There's so many.
There was a good one. I love the scenes that really like mess with your head. This was after Skylar basically attempted suicide by walking into the pool. You guys remember that? And she just didn't come back up. And afterwards, Walter's like, what was that about? They have this big argument. And she's like, I want the kids out of here. I got the kids out of here. They're not coming back. If I got to deal with living like this, I don't want the kids in the life. And Walter's like, you're not going to keep them out of here. They're going to come back eventually. And she's going through all these plans of how she's going to keep them out. And ultimately, she's like, you know what? That was a bad plan, but it's the only plan I have. Other than that, I got to wait.
Yeah.
Walter's like, wait for what? He's like, wait for the cancer to come back.
So
I didn't see that line
brutal.
coming.
Yeah.
And I was
Brutal.
like, dude.
That was brutal.
dark.
Another
That's really
brutal
dark.
Another brutal scene is after he kills Gus, and he's like, Walt, did you do this? He's like, yeah. He's like, I won. And she's kind of horrified, saying, oh my God, as
You
my
blew up a nursing home.
You blew up a nursing home to get rid of your enemy. And that's why when he came back, he's like, don't worry. He was like, Skylar, we're okay. We're safe. He's like, you don't have to be scared for me anymore. And she's like, I'm not scared for you, Walt. I'm scared of you. And then when, obviously, like, when he knows that she gave the money to Ted, we didn't talk about Ted, but whatever.
Oh, yeah.
There's just some crazy stuff with him
Yeah,
where he
but-
gets like paralyzed or whatever. That was
That was
then
just, she gave the money
crazy.
to Ted, and he's like, that scene where she's like lying in bed and she's like all curled up, and he goes over and tries to like spoon with her, and he's like, I forgive you. He's like, and he calls and he whispers in her, he's like, I forgive you.
That was
And
insane.
she's just horrified.
She's just like, terrified. You can see the fear in her eyes and the tears forming. I was like, wow.
that, and like the scene with Walt Jr. yelling at Walt yelling at Walt on the phone. I hate you. Just seeing the end
Why
of
don't
that.
you just die already?
You die already. Jesse confessing at AA, saying like, I shot a dog, and they're like, why? He's like, for no reason. He's like, I did it for I thought it was a reason. There was no reason. The dog was innocent. And he's like, then he's trying to tell them, it's like, obviously talking about Gail, but he's like, the only reason I'm here is I'm trying to sell you guys meth. And he's like,
Oh yeah, that was intense.
and his funny thing is his group leader, who was always so accepting, finally kind of tells him, you know what, you're not welcome here anymore. You should leave.
Yeah,
That was the line.
probably for the best.
Selling drugs to his clients. That was the line.
That's messed up. Yeah, man.
Yeah, Hank and Walt in the garage.
Big scene for
confronts
me.
him.
I was like almost happy for Hank too, you know, like, but Hank couldn't. Like, there's so many reasons Hank couldn't just throw cuffs on him and take him in. Like,
Oh, well, the whole false confession video. That was crazy,
brilliant.
man.
Again, we didn't talk about that. Yeah, it was like the blackmail kind of thing, you know.
That was one of the episodes I skipped, so I don't remember exactly what happened. But they tried to pin it all on Hank, right?
Yeah, crazy. Man.
Oh, when Walt's in Saul's office and Saul's like, I can't believe you had me. You never told me you were gonna poison a kid. That's when also when Saul's like, you see a little bit of like the good guy in him. He's like, He's like, if I had known you were gonna use that just to make a kid get sick, he's like, I never would have done it. He's like, I'm not perfect, and I know I'm like a scumbag, but there are limits to what I'll do.
Yeah, I never saw that coming, by the way.
And
with
Saul's
what was the flower or
the lilies of the valley. Or
yeah,
I remember
I didn't see that coming.
earlier in that episode when he was spinning the gun on the table, and it kept coming back and pointing towards him. I was like, oh, that's weird. I wonder how they do that. And then it points to the plant, and it cuts to something else. And you're kind of left there thinking, like, ooh, what was that about?
Yeah,
But I didn't see that coming till the very end.
I didn't catch it.
Oh,
Yeah,
man, he poisoned this kid?
yeah, I did not think that. Man.
That was actually that one thing about the good scene was when Walt was just waiting in his house and Jesse comes in and he's like, you poisoned the kid. He's got the gun pointed at him and they're just arguing back and forth. Just some really great acting in there. Yeah, Walter trying to convince him it was Gus when it really wasn't.
Crazy.
Ugh. He poisoned a kid
nuts.
just to manipulate Jesse. Like that's why that's one of those things where that last scene with them at the end when he's like pointing the gun at him is just like it's super intense. He's still trying to manipulate him into killing himself.
And that's when it was finally at the end. He's like, He's like, no, you want this.
Yeah, exactly. That's why that scene was so crazy to me.
But
It all came to a head.
The moment is when Saul was like back in his office, and Saul's like, I was never gonna poison a kid. I never would have done that. And he's like, you know what? He's like, and even Saul, when Saul's disgusted with you, that says something.
Yeah.
And he's telling Walt, he's like, I'm done. And then Walt like corners him he's like in the office. He's like, we're done when I say we're done. And
That was
another
intense.
big line. Yeah.
and he's just like, that's like nothing stops this train. He's like, we're moving forward. And
Crazy.
I'm in the Empire business. Just everything. I
love these like awkward pauses we have after we talk about these things. We're just like, whew.
Well, but yeah, my favorite scenes were the most intense ones, the ones that made me feel hollow inside.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that was a good episode. I feel
yeah.
bad.
Yeah. It's one of those shows you gotta like take a breath and walk away for a little bit before you watch the next one. Man, I need to move around a little bit and kind of shake that off. And
Well, I mean, another thing about the show, it's like so rooted in reality. Like you in real life, let's be honest. If you make these, it doesn't matter how sick you are or what your original intentions are. You make all these choices, it's not going to end pretty.
yeah.
You're gonna be you're gonna have your $10 million, but you're gonna live in some shack in the middle of the in the woods,
Absolutely.
in the snow.
That was
Where
interesting.
you can't even leave.
Yeah.
You know,
And he paid the guy to stay and play cards.
you
with
pay
him.
the
That
guy
was-
money to stay and play cards with you.
That was
You're
so
that
interesting.
depressed and
Thousands of
lonely.
dollars. Oh, poor Walt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, interesting show. I think we covered everything, gentlemen. We can watch, of course, Better Call Saul, so we have a little bit of Breaking Bad left in the universe for us, so I'm excited to watch that maybe sometime over the summer or the fall. We'll definitely get together and talk about that one. And yeah, shameless
New
plugs.
season in September, but I would recommend, Rob, you start watching before.
I'll try. Yeah, I'll tell you what was that, season 3 coming up?
Season 4 is coming up. in
Season
September.
4, oh
It's been
man.
on for 3 seasons already?
I got some work. What are they, 8 episodes?
They're
a
10
season?
episodes each, so
That
30
works.
episodes, and trust me, if you binge watch this that fast, you'll be able to get through this. No
Okay,
problem.
awesome. I'm excited to check it out. Of course, we got to end with some shameless plugs, as we always do on the Bob Culture Podcast. Check out Max and myself, Vextion.com, Facebook.com/VextionRocks. We got some stuff coming up for the summer. I think June 30th at the Saint for Rope Tree's CD release show. Our friends Lower the Veil are going to be there. It's going to be a good time, so come on out. That'll be at the Saint. Mike, we'll see you back here for Money in the Bank, of course, for the pay-per-view.
Yes.
Well, I'm expecting you to be here, man.
All right.
You're
thank you.
you're
I guess I'll-
undefeated streak, and
okay.
SummerSlam and all that coming up. So we're excited about that. Gentlemen, thank you for a few moments of your time.
Anytime.
This was a lot of fun, man. Thank you.
All right, Breaking Bad, we're out. Peace.
Please.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the Bob Culture Podcast. If you'd like to support the show on patreon.com for some great incentives, check out patreon.com/BobCulturePodcast. I'd like to thank my newest patrons, Mike and Michelle Vermillion from Sledgepad LLC. Sledgepad is the revolutionary bass drum dampening system that make blankets in your bass drum a thing of the past. I love my Sledgepad and is currently being used by drummers from national acts such as Pink and Collective Soul. Use my code BOBMAN007 at checkout for a special discount. Check them out at sledgepad.com. Finally, don't forget to support the show by leaving a review on iTunes or give me a like on facebook.com/BobCulturePodcast.